Welcome to the Sunday service of the Unitarian Universalists of Clearwater, located on Tocobaga land. I am Sue Boone, Worship Associate for this morning. My pronouns are she and her. Michael Kahn will be assisting me with the service today. If you are a first-time guest to our service, a very special greeting to you. In welcoming you to our spiritual home, we want you to know that this Unitarian Universalist congregation is where seekers find a home. This is a place a person can believe in one God, many gods or goddesses, or no gods. Whatever your religious background, your ethnicity, whomever you love, whatever your economic status, you are welcome here. If you would like more information about our congregation, go to our website, uuc.org. Today, I am pleased to welcome to the virtual pulpit the Reverend Michael J.S. Carter. Reverend Michael currently serves as minister to the UU congregation of the Swannanoa Valley in Black Mountain, North Carolina. Reverend Michael went into the ministry after a 27-year career in professional theater in New York City. He is an ordained interfaith minister, having graduated from the New Seminary Interfaith Temple in New York City, the College of New Rochelle, New York Theological Seminary campus, and the Union Theological Seminary in New York City, class of 2000. Reverend Carter has served various Unitarian Universalist churches in the New York City area and was trained as an anti-racism trainer by the Unitarian Universalist Association. Most recently, he is an adjunct professor at Western Carolina University, as well as the minister at his church.
The prelude today is Will There Really Be a Morning, which is actually a poem by Emily Dickinson that's been set many times. And today the setting is by contemporary composer Vicki Tucker Courtney, sung by Culver Casson.
Will there really be a morning? Is there such a thing as day? Could I see it from the mountains if I were as tall as they? Has it feet like water lilies? Has it feathers like a bird? Is it brought from famous countries of which I have never heard? Oh, some scholar, oh, some sailor, oh, some wise man from the skies, please to tell a little pilgrim where the place called morning lies. Where the place called morning lies.
Our opening words this morning are by the Reverend Dr. Cindy Landrum. Spirit of life and love, we gather together in a different way this morning. From computer screens, from telephones, from car radios, we gather, reaching out across the wires, waving from a safe distance to come together in religious community. From living rooms to front porches to car seats, we gather as we are able, ready to be of service to each other, to the world. Ready to build the community of hope and of love as we face this bright morning. We are apart, but we are together, offering our love, our commitment, our hope, and our prayers in service to one another and this world. It is a new way, but an old way, that we come together in worship today. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning, everyone. This morning, I will light the chalice. Join me in the reading of the chalice lighting words by Amy Williams Clark. We gather in
this time of uncertainty,
full of unknowns, as angst closes in upon us. We light this chalice with a flame that draws us together. With this flame, we cut through the dankness of isolation and are warmed by the fires of our interconnection. For this moment, this radical moment, we find a certainty within the knowable bonds of love and community.
Our opening hymn this morning is Morning Has Come by composer Jason Shelton.
Morning has come, arise and greet the day. Dance with joy and sing a song of gladness. The light of hope here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home.
we would like to share joys and sorrows with one another. If you have a joy or sorrow to share, please email the church office by Thursday to be included in the next Sunday service. But first, we will sing happy birthday to all the May babies. You can sing as loud as you want, as none of us can hear you. us be in an attitude of meditation and prayer. My words are adapted from a writing by Alex Knickenberg. Spirit of life, earth, sea, and sky, place of deep longings in our hearts, find our way from silence to voice. Give us strength and courage to speak truth through our lives, for we are creatures of the universe, small but infinite, a momentary body in the sea of life, and also the sea itself. We are a gathered bit of energy, and we are gatherers. We are creation and creators. Let us not hold too tightly to one form and lose the other, for we are not form, but process, ever changing and ever renewing. Help us find that we are neither the beginning nor the end, but something perfectly natural and imperfectly divine. Let us have a few moments of silence, and then we will sing together, filled with loving kindness.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be well filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
The offering story this morning is entitled Rainbows in the Windows by Jen Sir. Somewhere in the world, there was a child and their grandparent sheltering in place, just like you are now. And they were really fed up, perhaps a bit like you are sometimes. The novelty of being at home all the time and doing whatever they wanted had worn off for the child, and they felt bored. For the grandparent, it was less a feeling of boredom weighing them down, but rather a sense of hopelessness. They watched TV for hours, though how many hours remained a mystery. They had stopped keeping track of time, really. The days all blurred together. They felt they had been doing this for so long. And then one day, when the child accidentally sat on the remote control after getting more snacks, and the TV accidentally turned off, there was something new reflected in the black screen of the powered-down TV. The child and the grandparent turned around to look out their front window and find the source of this reflection. In the house, across the road from them, there was a piece of paper taped in the window, and on that paper there was a colorfully drawn rainbow. Well, this was something new, something unexpected and bright and cheery and new. The child and the grandparent turned to one another, knowingly grinning. In a flash, the child retrieved a sheet of paper and crayons and began to draw a rainbow, while the grandparent fetched tape. A moment later, they gazed upon their window with pride. Their rainbow shone back across the street, joyfully mirroring their neighbor's rainbow. What happened next was like magic. Every day, more cheerful rainbows appeared in more windows, all up and down the street. The child and the grandparent gleefully drew rainbows for each window in their home, watching their neighbors doing the same. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and all manner of other colors burst forth, seeming to shine through the windows. A cacophony of color. But the people didn't stop there. They continued to draw. Rainbows were taped to neighbors' doors, slipped into mailboxes. They were sent to care homes, to beloved elders who couldn't have visitors. Rainbows were left tucked under the windshield wipers of Uber Eats drivers' cars. They were left out for the delivery folks. People made rainbows to send to hospitals, scrawled with a message of gratitude and admiration for everyone working to help the sick, from the doctors and nurses to the custodial staff and maintenance workers. Stockers working hard in grocery stores found paper rainbows between cans of bean and corn, left waiting on the shelves where the toilet paper was still sold out. Now, families on solitary walks around the city go rainbow hunting. The child and the grandfather like to do this, taking paper with them to write down all the places they see rainbows hanging. The empty school, the corner store, windows of brownstone homes, even hanging from balconies 15 stories up. They make a list of all the rainbows emerging, logging each place where the colors shine into the empty streets. By now, you've probably figured out that this story is really happening all over the world right now. Folks are coming together in spirit while physically distanced to lovingly reassure one another with brilliant colors. The rainbows are beautiful, and to see them alone is a joy, but they carry with them a promise. The rainbows shine as a reminder of hope. We are in this together. The storm will end, and we will come out on the other side. I'd like to remind you that since we're doing our offertories virtually also, that they are critical to the success and future of our congregational family.
Our offertory this morning will be Deep River, an African American spiritual arranged by Andy Beck and sung by Emily Ryder.
I want to cross over to Cameron. Deep river, my home is over Jordan. Deep river, Lord, I want to going to cross over, I'm gonna cross over. Oh Lordy, take me over to campground, to campground.
You'll remember me when the west wind moves upon the fields of barley. You'll forget the sun in his yellow sky as we walk in fields of gold. So she took her love for to gaze a while upon the fields of barley. In his arms she fell, and her hair came down among the fields of gold. Will you stay with me? Will you be my love among the fields of barley? We'll forget the sun in his yellow sky as we lie on the fields of gold. See the west wind move like a lover's soul upon the fields of barley. Feel her body rise when you kiss her mouth among the fields of gold. I never made promises lightly, and there have been some that I've broken. But I swear in the days that left, we're walking fields of gold. We're walking fields of gold. We're walking fields of gold. Many years have passed since those summer days among the fields of barley. See the children run as the sun goes down among the fields of gold. You'll remember me when the west wind moves upon the fields of barley. You can tell the sun in his yellow sky when walking fields of gold. When walking fields of gold. When walking fields of gold.
And now I welcome the Reverend Michael Carter to our virtual pulpit. Hi, Michael.
Hey, Sue. Good morning, everybody. I want to, first of all, thank you for being here and choosing to spend your time virtually. I want to say a special thank you to Jean and Chuck Scheimer, and of course to Sue. And boy, you have a really talented congregation. Well, obviously musically talented. I'm sure there are other talents there too, but just wonderful, wonderful. And I thank you again. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. I had to accept things that happen. And I want to talk a little bit today about acceptance. And I want to say from the beginning that I'm talking about acceptance with an A, not acceptance. Acceptance is when you exclude something or someone that you don't want, or maybe something you don't want to face up to. Acceptance with an A is when you receive something or you come to grips with something. And acceptance in this context that I'm talking about can actually lead to freedom. And it's crucial in our life journey that we learn to move from mere tolerance to acceptance. Very important. Now, many people feel, especially when I talk to like activists in my community or in my church, many people feel that then when they are asked to accept something, that this means that they must somehow acquiesce to a situation, become resigned to it or simply give up. And that's not necessarily true. But it must be remembered that before you can change anything or you can change something, you must at first see it for what it is. Ernest Hemingway is quoted as saying that if he was that he was always, not if, but he was always suspicious of people who wanted to change the world without first taking the time to find out what the world was really about in the first place. And this is important to remember. To fully accept something, to fully accept the situation, to fully accept someone, one must first see it for what it really is at that moment. The challenge is to see ourselves for what and who we really are before we try to change or to accept someone else. The Reverend Michael Bethwitt, who has a wonderful church out in Los Angeles called Agape International, he says that in the context of someone not being able or willing to accept life as it is, he says it takes more energy to stay in your past than it does to move forward, for you are working against the flow of life, and you just can't win that. No doubt staying at home, going with the flow as this virus is among us. And I'm an introvert, so I live like a hermit anyway. Being home, I have my books, I have my music, I watch TV occasionally. I don't really travel too far away, so it doesn't bother me as much. My more extroverted friends, however, are really having a hard time. But no doubt this is the human challenge, right? Being able to accept that life is not always fair, that's a biggie. Being able to accept that people are not always loving or loyal all of the time. Being able to accept that everything changes and ends. Being able to accept that things do not always go according to our plans. These 5 facts will come to visit us many times during our lifetime, and I'll talk a little more about them as we move forward into the talk this morning. But this is what it means to be accepting. You see, in Eastern thought, one is taught to go with the flow of life and not try to control it. We bend and flow with the energy. But in the West, we are taught that we are in control of life and the people in it. Reinhold Niebuhr, the American Protestant theologian, composed a prayer that has become the cornerstone of the recovery movement. He wrote, "God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference." Now, I have heard variations on this. God grant me to accept the things I can change with coffee and the things that I cannot change with wine. Now that's a perspective. But there's also a variation on this. And it says, God grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the one that I can, and the wisdom to know it's me. Simple, but profound wisdom here. This is the core challenge of life. And yet we believe, unconsciously or consciously, that somehow these things don't apply to us. Yet when we resist this wisdom, We resist the reality of life, and then our life becomes full of frustrations and sorrows and disappointments. Some things are simply built into what it means to be a human being on this planet. There's no escaping it. The spiritual genius that manifested as the energy of the Buddha knew this. The teacher Jesus said, "The poor you will have with you always." Now, he didn't say that you should not try to feed them. He didn't say that. But this was a fact of life from generations down. There will always be the poor. Many reasons why, but there will always be. Buddha said that the cure for suffering was non-attachment. He did not say that we should not assist or care for those in need. He simply said that becoming attached to our actions and results of those actions were the cause of suffering. In other words, non-attachment is not that you should not own or feel anything, but that nothing should own you. The philosopher Alan Watts reminds us that there will always be suffering, but that we must not suffer because of the suffering. But then again, there are delightful givens to life. We experience joy, right? There's more to life than suffering. We experience joy. Our hopes are sometimes exceeded. We discover unique inner gifts, that things that have a way of working out. Luck comes our way. Miracles of healing can and do happen. You see, the ego, and I'm not one of these people who says we should get rid of the ego. I don't know if you really can or would even want to. I know a lot of therapists. I have a lot of therapist friends, and we debate this at times. But the ego is afraid when it cannot be in control. The ego insists on complete control of everything. And yet life happens to us in its own way, no matter how much we protest or seek to evade it. And no one is exempt. We're all unique and special, just like the person next to us. We can learn to accept life on its own terms. We don't have to shake our fist at the sky and get, stomach problems and intestinal problems. We can create a sane and authentic life by saying yes to life just as it is. The story of the Buddha is a wonderful illustration of this. His father, the king, tried to keep him from seeing the nitty-gritty of life, that life sometimes for some people can be a low-down, dirty shame. But one day, Gautama said he ventured outside the confines and the so-called protection of his father's kingdom, and he saw life for what it was and is. He saw sickness. He saw old age and death, people not treating each other fair. And these sights moved him deeply and contributed much to his insights. So he walked his spiritual path and he ultimately became enlightened. I use this illustration not to promote Buddhism, but this tradition emphasizes the importance of seeing through our own illusions and facing up to life's givens in order to become fully who we were meant to be. The question is that when we land with a thud after life knocks us down, which it surely will, we can ask, what is the lesson to be learned here? Not why is this happening to me? What can I learn from this? What is life? What is this situation trying to teach me? Perhaps I'm not as accepting of difference as I think I am or that I need to be. And so in this way, we can check the ego with its constant neurosis of fear and control and judgment and complaint and expectation. When we say yes to life, we say yes to all of it, right? The Danish theologian Kierkegaard reminds us that life is not a problem to be solved. It is a mystery to be lived. And we begin to get it that anything can happen to anyone at any time, and we are not exempt. And we begin to get it that we must accept others and their personalities and habits. Now, we don't have to like them. We don't have to like them necessarily, but we don't have to make unreal expectations. Besides, the poet Rumi tells us that if we are irritated by every rub, how will we ever be polished? This is the sentiment behind James Baldwin's statement that nothing human is foreign to me. He is not shocked or thrown off course by human behavior because he is human himself, and he knows and has experienced the great feats of altruism that we sometimes do for one another, and also the degradation and inhumanity we can release on each other. William Shakespeare puts these words into the mouth of King Lear. He says, "A most poor man, made tame to fortune's blows, who by the art of knowing and feeling sorrow is pregnant to good pity." In other words, the blows of life equip King Lear to have compassion towards others. The inner life needs to stretch or it will stifle. What kind of world would it be if things did not change, if things were fully predictable, if life did not include pain and everyone loved equally and loyally? I mean, it sounds like a utopia, but life is simply not like that. And this is not the world that we live in, and we must come to grips with it. I have friends that may surprise you, but I do have a few friends, and you know, they talk about why don't we have world peace? And that's a young person's dream. And I don't mean that in any bitter way, but there are 8-9 billion people on the planet. To expect that all 8 or 9 billion people are on the same path of evolution at the same time, at the same place, that's just not realistic. We can work towards more peace, but to get upset because people aren't behaving the way we think they should, that's unrealistic. Western thought teaches us to think in dualistic ways, simply notions of good and bad. But we can learn to say yes to the paradoxes of life. We can say yes to an existence of changes and endings. We make commitments, plans fall through. I was supposed to be there this weekend. We can maintain our compassion in an unjust world. We can be loving towards others no matter how cruelly they may act towards us. We can recognize and acknowledge the dark side of life of other people and still choose not to give up on them, which is a sign of spiritual maturity. Here are some examples of what I mean. I'm going to go back to what we had talked about. I said, coming to grips with that everything changes and ends. But things renew themselves, and they move through cycles that further our evolution. We've been taught that time is linear, but time is cyclical, if you believe in time at all. But it's certainly not linear. Now, although things do not always go according to plan, we sometimes can sense a larger plan at work through synchronicities that open startling possibilities. Life is not always fair, but something remains in us, committed to fairness and refuses to be unjust or retaliatory. Although suffering is a part of life, we have ways of dealing with it, and thereby we expand our powers to handle future pain and help others in their pain as well. Although people are not loving and loyal all of the time, nothing has to get in the way of our acting with loving kindness and not giving up on others. No human action can take away another human being's capacity to love unless you choose that, unless you don't want to love. And that's part of it too. Dr. Howard Thurman talks about, having the will to be willing to love, not to love. Because he said, there's just some people I have not grown to love. There's some people I don't want to love. But he says that my prayer is that I have the will to be willing to love. That's a very human perspective. And so you see, each so-called negative has a positive side. It's like the yin-yang symbol. There is dark in the light, and there's light in the dark. And when we accept the so-called good with the bad, the easy will be the difficult. The easy with the difficult, gratitude is the result. Being thankful. It means moving away from fear and toward freedom. It means changing our why to acceptance, to yes. The late UN Secretary General Dag Hammarskjöld, I'm paraphrasing, he said, to everything that has come before, I say thank you. And everything that will come, I say yes. Because the opposite of yes in this context, is not no. The opposite of yes is control. Behind that control is fear, a fear that we will fear something painful. Yes is acceptance. No is refusal. And control is stressful. We do not let go of control. We have to let go of the belief that we have control. Worry is directly related to control. We worry about many things, the future, our finances, this virus, relationships, jobs, and all of the other unpredictable things in our lives. Yet, truth be told, there is only one worry, and that of not being in control of what will happen. We worry because we do not trust ourselves to handle what will happen to us. We worry because we do not trust that the way the chips fall will work out for the best. And we worry because we have not learned to accept. It's important to remember that when we learn to accept life, not as we want it to be, but rather as it is, we do not push this acceptance onto others, since we all have a different reality to affirm. We don't want to be members of the CIA, critic, interpreter, and advisor. We can begin the practice, for it will take some practice, to stop taking other people's inventory, judging and criticizing behavior, and interpreting what they should be doing with their life to our worldview. This is unrealistic and it is immature. Joseph Campbell was once quoted as saying that hell is being stuck in ego, stuck in trying to control things so that they stay the same. Control is the opponent to the acceptance of life. It is not that we resent reality. Again, we resent not being in control of it. And here are some examples of wanting to be in control. We want others to be different. We get upset when someone doesn't call back or visit. The house is never as clean or neat as we want it to be. We do not like tests or waiting for results. We obsessed about what happened or what might not happen. Our parents, children, partners, or friends, or just people in general, do not behave in the way we want them to behave. We have to anticipate all possibilities. We have to be hypervigilant. We have to be guarded unless we're caught unguarded. Now, the list is not comprehensive, but I think you get my drift. You see, the truth of the matter is this. We will never live in a world where everyone will accept you or your differences and your uniqueness. Again, billions of people on the planet, we're not going to evolve at the same rate. Yet we can be, and at the same time, but we can be accepting of others and ourselves. But if we cannot accept ourselves, warts and all, we'll never be able to fully accept another person. It's just that simple. For what we cannot accept in ourselves, we project onto others. We each are mirrors to and for each other to grow and to learn and to love, and we can do better and learn to accept life with yes. We don't have to know everything, for instance. We can learn to be comfortable with mystery. It's one thing to be curious and another to have to know everything in order to be in control of everything. When we learn to accept life in the world as it is, then we can make the changes in ourselves to create a better world. In short, acceptance means that for now, this is what this situation requires of me at this moment, and I do it willingly. Delays do not mean denial. I want to share with you these words from George Bernard Shaw. This is the true joy of life, he says, the being used for a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one, the being a force of nature, instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the entire community, and as long as I live, it is a privilege to do for it whatever I can. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die, for the harder I work, the more I live. I rejoice in life for its own sake. He says, life is no brief candle for me. No. It is a splendid torch, which I have got hold of for the moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations. In closing, I'm sure you're familiar with this. This is an old favorite. Go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even the dull and the ignorant, for they too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexations to the spirit, and if you compare yourself with others, you may become vain and bitter. For always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let this not blind you to what virtue there is, because many people strive for high ideas, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself. Especially do not feign affection, neither be cynical about love, for in the face of aridity and disenchantment, it is perennial as the grass. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune, but do not distress yourself with imaginings. Many fears are born of loneliness and fatigue, and beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive that to be, and whatever your labors and aspirations. In the noisy confusion of life, keep peace with your soul, because with all of its sham and drudgery and broken dreams, it's still a beautiful world. Be careful. Strive to be happy. So, there you have it. Be joyful. Be accepting, even when you have considered all the facts. Amen. Aho, and blessed be. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. We will now have hymn number 21 for the beauty of the earth. We will now extinguish the chalice. Together we will repeat, go in peace, go making peace, live gently, love mightily, and bow to the mystery.